Welcome to the Frontier Leader Show. Today, Martin is talking to Julian Schoemig.
I think that vibe coding for us is very much focused around an idea and a feature or functionality that we want to drive forward. And then we're using those tools that we have available and that are so good these days to accelerate the time with which we can push out those features.
Welcome to the Frontier Leader Show. I'm Martin Wheatley, and each week I speak to leaders, coaches, practitioners, and technologists working out what good leadership looks like in an AI-shaped world. While you still have the app open, please hit follow or subscribe to not miss out on the next episode. And if you want a practical starting point for leading with AI, I have a free roadmap at theaileaderlab.com, and the link is in the show notes. Let's get into it. Welcome to the show, Julian Schoemig. Julian is the CEO and co-founder of an exciting fintech company called Diesta, which is a financial infrastructure platform enhancing how payments and reconciliation workflows work in the insurance industry. He sits right at the cross-section of a complex industry with a startup company in the age of AI. So this is going to be a very interesting conversation. And Julian is a fantastic guy. He runs a brilliant company that is very passionate about everything they do. And this is going to be a fantastic conversation. So Julian, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martin. Glad to be here. Really excited for the conversation.
Good. I mean, let's just start off. Just tell us a bit about you and a bit about Diesta and what you're trying to achieve.
Yes. So in the introduction, you already mentioned that Diesta sits perfectly positioned between the intersection of insurance and finance. Insurance payments have often been perceived to be an afterthought of the contract that is being signed, in essence. And with Diesta, we want to change that. We want to bring the promise to pay and to be paid at the forefront of the insurance industry and make sure that the money flows nicely between the various different intermediaries, insurers, and other parties. I think my journey really in the industry and with Diesta started with studying finance after having completed an engineering career in Germany, and really found a strong endorsement from my finance professor who got me close to the insurance industry and said there is a large potential for innovation. I should have a little look. Had the opportunity to join the Munich Re for 5 years, who sent me around the world in various different capacities and roles. And I was able to get an insight into it that I now leverage to help the industry back with the innovation that we bring.
Which is fantastic. I mean, having both of us been in that industry anyway, it is a complicated beast. There are lots of reconciliation issues across the industry, from retail all the way through to wholesale and everything in between along the chain. So, what's a typical day for you like then in a fintech insurance startup?
Yes, I moved down to Brighton recently, to the coast, and so my day starts early morning. We got a little Labrador, so I might take her for a little walk. I catch the train up to London, walk over London Bridge into our office, meet the team and my co-founder Chris for a coffee, for a little conversation, and we get the team together to get started. We do sprint cycles around focused work, and then we get started. And I think a lot of the work that we're doing is on the whiteboard, ideating, specifying, meeting customers to continue building, and at the same time, obviously help our existing customers improve day by day more and more. So I think we really hit a nice space with Diesta, where we are fortunate enough to be able to support already a range of different clients. But at the same time, we're nowhere near where we want to be and where our vision guides us. So I think from a very high level perspective, my day is split 50-50 between serving the needs and the current clients, and the other half is really around already thinking about what's next, how can we improve and get better every day.
And how are you? Obviously, you're right at the forefront of technology in the insurance industry. How do you see the insurance industry adapting with all the new technology that's coming through? Obviously agentic AI, that kind of pipeline? How do you see that impacting the industry? And then I suppose a follow-on question, how the product of Diesta is going to evolve as a result of that.
Yes, yeah, that's a very good question. So I think the technology infrastructure in the insurance industry is really on a large transformation at the moment. Not only driven by AI, but as well already by the fact that the vast amount of first generation specialized insurtech has really hit the market around 25 years ago, around the change of the century. Now, those technology providers built on a premise, built on technology that is fairly outdated. And over the last 5 years, we've seen a huge influx of insurtechs coming out that have started to build in the cloud, that started to innovate significantly faster than some of the legacy providers were able to do. And this change has already triggered a massive mindset, both in regards to the clients as well as to the technology providers. And that's the mindset of partnership, where previously companies try to grab as much of a client as possible and start to layer on modules. Now the name of the game is really specialization and partnering where you see gaps to be able to deliver a 10x better solution than the current market. Now, with that trend that has started roughly, let's say, 5 to 8 years ago with the next wave of insurtechs, we're now seeing already the next wave of that, starting with the generative AI startups coming through. So like the waves of innovation from 2000 to 2020 and now 2020 to 2025, we're now already getting into the third stage already after like just roughly 5 years, which will accelerate that process even more. And now the question really around where are we in 5 years' time? Is partnership still like the name of the game to bring your specialism and to find the right tools to plug into? Or will it be really a matter of, again, back to single companies owning a client fully, because it gets easier and easier to bring out the modules and the interfaces that are needed to serve those clients? So I think there's an interesting time ahead of us.
Absolutely. I think that the challenge of legacy systems, no two, well, I was going to say no two systems are the same. The system might be the same, but how people have used it might be completely different across from one company to another. So I guess that's when we're looking at, obviously on my lens, obviously with AI implementations on top of legacy systems and yours from a Diesta platform point of view, that must be a massive challenge just to make sure you've got the basics right, I suppose. How do
Yeah,
how do how do how do you deal with that in practice?
yeah, no, I think that's a really good point, and I think that's something that will stick around for quite a while. That there is a lot of technology out there which is pushing the boundaries, which might not be yet battle tested, might not bring yet the security and the guardrails with it that is needed. And at the same time, the data, the processes, and some technology sits quite far away from where the outside capabilities now have evolved to. So I think the goal really is to combine those two together. So like we see a whole range of different connections that we have to build from a Diesta point of view, where we integrate with policy systems, with banks, with underwriting workbenches and data warehouses and so forth. And it really ranges from very old system connectivity to API enabled ones, and now even to MCP server driven connectivity. And I think we need to, as a new entrant in the market, be able to support all of those different topics and in essence provide that layer that allows the customer then to really plug in their system of choice almost regardless of how that system can be accessed. And so the more smarter new tools you bring in with an open connectivity mindset, the more flexibility those clients buy for their larger organization, as it becomes more of a plug and play module that they can modularize as they see fit.
Yeah, and I suppose that answers the next question that I was going to think of, which was about scaling this up. I mean, it all obviously ties into each other, but you've probably touched on some of those there, but are there any other challenges you see to an average client of yours who wants to scale fast?
Yeah, certainly. Like I think scaling is always the goal for pretty much all of us entrepreneurs or people who want to build something. You want to get to the next stage faster and higher than you've did before. Scaling brings a lot of challenges with it, whether that's internal efficiencies as you grow the team and suddenly the team explodes and you need to onboard and you need to communicate effectively and you need to get processes in place to make that work, but as well like externally with scaling come different use cases. It's not only you got your one use case and you duplicate that 10 times. All of those 10 different use cases will be slightly different. And the secret is really to find the things that combine them all and be able to deal with the uniqueness in a flexible way. So I think for me and for us, and maybe as well like a uniqueness to the insurance industry, that scaling element is really around the flexibility and how far the various different use cases will branch out of each other. And I think there, again, like the capabilities and the risks of AI are phenomenal. And because on the one hand side, the flexibility allows you with AI, or AI allows you to deal with that flexibility in a very fast, in a very straightforward way, where you just tell it to adopt the code, adopt the platform to a very specific use case, and it comes out. And the risks with that, obviously, is that you do introduce more complexity around like the governance, the processes, the security, to make sure that what you put out there is not only a, let's say, vibe code tool that like looks shiny and works during a demo, but then doesn't really serve the customer's needs long term. So I think once you tame the AI capability well and you put the right guardrails in place, I think scaling will become significantly better, especially dealing with all of those various different edge cases and uniquenesses that the insurance industry is quite famous for.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I mean, you mentioned vibe code in there, which is obviously a hot topic at the minute, as lots of people rush to build everything they can imagine because that technology is now available. Do you and your team use vibe coding internally in Diesta then to prototype?
Yes, to some extent. So we do have internal facing tools, for example, that allow us to perform certain actions in automated fashion that we don't yet expose to the customers. And there to have a front end for that and the right workflows for us internally, again, where the design is not too critical and the exact kind of, how should I say, like the composition of it is not mission critical, then we do use those tools quite significantly. When we go towards really moving things into production, I think there I'm not sure if I would call it vibe coding, but we're leveraging a lot of AI capabilities of the various different tools. So you now have the ability, if you use a particular design tool, for example, to use an existing part of the platform, put that into the design tool, tell it what it needs to do, modify it from there as you see fit, and then export it back from that design tool back in your code directly. That is, again, 80% of exactly the design you've created. And then the other 20% you can enhance with, again, AI or with looking through the code yourself. So I think that vibe coding for us is very much focused around an idea and a feature or functionality that we want to drive forward. And then we're using those tools that we have available and that are so good these days to accelerate the time with which we can push out those features.
Yeah, and I think that's fantastic because it enables you to try and test things a lot quicker. But the key thing that you mentioned there, which shouldn't be missed, is the fact that you use it for 80%, but that final 20% is the most important bit, which is you or your team looking through it. Does it work? Does it check? Does it make everything better? Does it against whatever quality checks you have, and then putting it in your code, not just blindly relying on what spits out first time and then do your request into GitHub or whatever.
Exactly. The number of lines of code that you can produce these days with AI is massively exploded, which could be a great sign that it means like you put more functionality onto your platforms, but at the same time, there might be a lot of fluff in that code as well, where you could say something if you really think hard within one line and not within 10 lines. And at the same time, as you mentioned, the testing is utmost important because that influx of amount of code that's now being produced needs to be tested through the same or even a more rigorous process, because there is always a couple of points within the code that might be hallucinated, might be not as you envisaged. So like it is a really double-edged sword and you need to control it well.
Yeah. And just coming back to the scaling topic, just because obviously when we first met back in 2022, obviously Diesta's changed significantly from when we first sat down at King's Cross and had that coffee. How have you had to adapt your kind of leadership style and the tools, and does AI play a role in that, in how you're managing the company now?
Yes, and yeah, I very vividly remember that like nice spring day where we were at Bill's for like a coffee
Yeah.
and breakfast. That was great, and that's exactly like what like helped us at Diesta so much, learning from experts such as yourself, really like the war stories, the insights, the kind of what works, what doesn't work well, where does the industry think towards. So yeah, that has been absolutely fantastic, and I think back in these days, it might have been only my co-founder and myself working together. So like our role was very much out in the market, opening up our ears to see what's going on, opening up our eyes and mind, and throwing ideas back and forth and ideating. There was some ChatGPT out there at this stage when we got started, which we used for ideation and kind of deepening our thoughts. But fast forwarding now 3-4 years is really, the organization has grown significantly. We're now like over 25 people. And obviously my role has changed as well, where we've now been really fortunate at Diesta to bring on experts in the various different fields, whether that's within the product space, whether it's in the client space, in the engineering space. And so our roles have really migrated more towards like the higher level vision and steering of the company. We all built our own internal MCP service that pulls in data from various different elements, whether that's the code base, the document base, and the watch logs of the platform and our internal communication. And so both business as well as tech leverage those tools quite effectively to minimize inefficient questions between the different team members. So, and in a similar way, I do use the tools as well. So where I am in front of a customer and the customer asks me something, I now have the ability, without interrupting my team, to service those questions. And at the same time, when I think about something, already go into a brainstorming mode with the MCP service without having to bring up maybe arguably some dumb ideas to the team, which again would be a distraction and so forth, and come with a set of better thought ideas and like sharper ones that already had some sort of input from my teammates, even though they didn't really realize, just because of the amount of documentation and thinking they fed into the service.
Yeah, good. I like it. I mean, ultimately, you're leveraging everything all together, aren't you? You're pulling it all together, and then you can interact with it. And the great example you gave there, in terms of when you're with a client or when you're just about to speak to a client, and you can interrogate everything just to get your thoughts right, I think is a key one. When I was at the Microsoft conference in February, there was a panel discussion up on stage, and one of the speakers said about how he has given it to their senior broking team, and they do exactly the same. It preps a lot of detail and context before the meetings that perhaps you wouldn't have naturally remembered. You'll have missed. It'll have been a couple of years ago, but it's just refreshed and brought it all back straight, so you've got it there. And the way that you're using it there sounds very similar, but yeah, it takes away a lot of stress in a CEO role. I don't imagine you're short of stress, but a lot of that thinking space that can be sped up.
Yes, and I think as well, like similar to the Microsoft conference that you mentioned, I think the internal efficiency that that tool can bring is really underappreciated because
Mm.
we all grown up in an office environment, 9 to 5, where you just tap someone on the shoulder and you ask a question, and that was fairly okay. Now with hybrid working, you get always into a point of either giving a call, setting up a meeting, Slack messages, popping up left, right, and center, or Teams messages. And every time you ask someone a question, they interrupt their flow of thoughts. And it might sometimes be quicker, especially on the business side, to get back into the flow. But if you're a deep thinker on it, working on a deep topic, that can be hurtful, that it takes you another 15 minutes to really get back into that state where you were like most productive. Really, that efficiency topic, obviously with my German blood running through my veins, and as well like what we want to do externally for the insurance market, we want to do internally as well. And I really am quite bullish on the amount of self independency you gain by having that tool while not running blindly, but as I said, cross checking with your colleagues almost without them knowing.
You've got a team obviously that's based in London, and I know, they work at home quite a lot of the time, but you from what I remember, and you can correct me on this, you've got the balance really nicely actually. So you've obviously have, is it 2 or 3 days in the office and then blended with the hybrid working from home? So it kind of ticks all the boxes in my opinion anyway, but
Yes. No, exactly. And I think being a startup as well, like we layer on a couple of benefits, such as free lunches on a Monday. We're very fortunate to have access to a terrace that overlooks Tower Bridge and the main high rises of the city. So, and we really have a cool space here that we can call home for our work. So that hybrid structure with the 2 to 3 days is really the best of both worlds because it allows us to work together and to talk, where there's still a requirement to talk and not only to talk with the agent, but at the same time, then as well, like be at home and get a little bit more into the zone with less distractions and get deeper work done.
yeah. I just need to make a note there about the free lunch on Mondays, so just to make sure I come down to see
Done,
you on a
yes.
Monday.
You can place your order on a Sunday already, and you come down on
I
one.
will email you on Sunday afternoon, don't you worry.
Brilliant.
So what's kind of next for you and Diesta then? Obviously, you've had a lot of growth so far, a fantastic trajectory. You've obviously got good investors behind you who are supporting the growth. So what's next on the journey for you and Diesta?
Yeah, we really want to build more and more capabilities to help moving money in insurance. So we started off with a reconciliation tool that we saw as the most pressing need in the insurance industry to align all of the various different data points within an organization and between various different organizations who famously in insurance share their money between them. From there on, we built a subledger functionality, which helps with keeping track of everything, getting the transparency and the risk out of the way. And we're now moving into a payment initiation functionality as well that actually helps move money directly through the Diesta platform. So our vision really is getting more and more into the functionality to be the control center from where you can run your payment operations in insurance end to end. Whether that is as simple as sending your invoices or your credit control statements to various complex reconciliations to your month end and putting the right accounts into your general ledger, and then as well requesting or initiating payments straight from the same platform. So that we get to a point where payments in insurance don't move as slowly as they do and provide as much drag on revenue as they are, but they really flow seamlessly behind that contract that is being signed that promise to pay the customer when they have a claim, but at the same time the customer promises to pay the insurance industry, and they do. But then the insurance industry, as we know, is often comprised of 5, 6 different entities participating on that contract, and that promise to be paid is often then seen as that is a very slow promise to be paid in essence. And we want to change that. We want to get to a point where insurance is being placed and you got your money in the bank that you deserve and that you need to put on the side for your risk allocation with a few minutes.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think it's fascinating what you're trying to do. As you know, I love the Diesta company, and I think what you shared there in terms of how your day looks and how you're using technology, I think is a great example. So moving on to the second kind of half of the show, and this is just where I ask guests just to share three things that the listener could take away. It could be a book recommendation. It could be a quote that's specifically resonated with you. It could be, I don't know, it could be to get out and go for a walk in nature. I really don't know. But what do you think you'd like to offer up to the guests?
Yes. No, that's good. So at the moment, I'm not much of a reader, I have to admit. I'm really just like heads down in all of our daily challenges. And when I read, then it's very specific to a piece of thought and an article rather than a book. But regarding motivation and slogan, what really is very dear to our heart at Diesta is the slogan of "Rock and Roll," which I incorporate as well personally quite a lot because my granddad was an avid Elvis Presley fan and loved the rock and roll and got to know my grandma over one of the rock and roll dances in Germany, and my godfather is a famous drummer in a local band as well, and
Wow. Okay.
to adopt that rock and roll theme a little bit with obviously the slight change to the rock and roll, the reconciliation, but the mindset I think stays the same. I think being rock and roll or rock and roll for us means really taking the life to its fullest, going out there, being a little bit different, right? Challenging the status quo and really pushing for that. So I think if any finance users in insurance listen to this, I'm wondering if the rock and roll theme as well like resonates well with you guys. And that's really it. I think the message from us, and now having changed from a large company onto a startup and being fortunate enough to be supported by some of the largest fintech investors out there, and having built a fantastic team and having gained some of the largest and most innovative insurance companies alike, we really want to don't take that for granted and appreciate that and really do our best to warrant that trust and to push ahead and to take advantage of the opportunity that we have while having a little bit fun with it. And that's approach life. So
No, I think that's great. I mean, I do actually like that rock and roll. I do like it. I'm shocked that I've not heard that before. But next time we'll have to do a video podcast where you can show me your dance moves. But
yeah. Can do, yeah.
no, look, I think that's great, and it's a great mindset to have, and especially just coming back to how you're using the newer tech now as a fintech leader. I think that does shine through. I mean, you're trying stuff, you're trying to get there so that you're positioning the best product to your clients. You're trying you trial and error to get there. You're using the technology. I think you've just got to aim for the highest and work towards it every day. And there's always going to be some days that set you back, but overall, it's positive, isn't it? So absolutely, keep on moving. And I think the a lot of the questions I get at the minute are about this new technology, the AI. I know AI isn't a new technology per se, but the availability of it and the impact on jobs and creativity and and everything like that, and that seems to be really the repeating question at the minute. And where it comes back to your answer there, your rock and roll is, I think it does kind of embody that really, because you embrace it, you know, enjoy the process, try these things out, see what works, see what doesn't, and it's an exciting time. And you're right at the pointy side of the sword, aren't you? It's going to be interesting to watch how it all unfolds.
Likewise. Very excited as well to see where you're going and with your podcast and everything. So yeah.
Thank you. Okay, cracking. Right. Okay, so if people wanted to reach out to you, Julian, where's the best to contact you? Is it LinkedIn or is it directly to
We're
Diesta? Or...
We're weekly on LinkedIn, Diesta Limited. You can reach us at hello@diesta.co.uk. And we're based at the Northern and Shell building at 10 Lower Thames Street. If you want to join us for a Monday lunch, give us a heads up on Sunday. And everyone who's listening to that show is very much invited to a nice bite with us on our terrace overlooking Tower Bridge.
Fantastic. And is there any other parting comments from you, from Diesta?
Yeah, keep wrecking, keep rocking and rolling, and I think there's exciting times ahead, and we keep pushing on our side as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Julian. That's been really good in listening to what you're doing, what you're building, you and the team, and all the best for the future. I think it's fantastic. So I will watch out closely. But thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin. Much appreciated.
Okay, and a big thank you to Julian for this session. If you found this useful, please hit follow or subscribe if you haven't done already. And a review and a rating does genuinely help the channel, and I do massively appreciate it. The AI Leadership Roadmap is free. Everything you need to start leading with AI practically at theaileaderlab.com. The link is in the show notes below. Until next time, bye-bye for now.